Hi everyone, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. It's great to be back on the show. Happy Halloween, wherever you are. This week I'm joined by JP and we're back with Keena again. Obviously we're towards the end of the fixtures now. The league has been won and one team has been relegated. I suppose we'll jump right in. Keena, I suppose where's better to start really than the champions, Shamrock Rovers. 1-0 win over Derry. They've won the league now again, third season in a row. They've won it and they've won it very well. What did you make of that game?
Yeah, look, the game was a bit of a write-off, to be honest. I kind of knew that was going to be the case. It was just kind of get the game done type of thing, I think. But now, look, worthy champions, no doubt about it. The best team you see when the game gets tough and, you know, when they're under pressure late in games, you know, they popped up with some big ones, the Shells and stuff like that. Comes back into mind, you know, and they've been the best team. The league table doesn't lie, as they say, but that's right. They've been the best team. They deserve to be champions. Game wasn't great overall. It's actually better than I expected, though. I expected it to be a low tempo affair, just kind of get it done. But there was a bit about it. There was a lot of free kicks, very close. That was probably disappointing from both teams. That's one thing that I picked out of it. Like some really good chances from both teams. Like, you know, and I think if the free kicks were about 3 or 4 yards out, further out, you know, it was probably a little bit close to get it up and over. That's why you're seeing them hit the wall a few times. But there wasn't much in the game. You know, there wasn't a lot of chances. I thought Derry's probably best chance was the free kick, a couple of minutes to go. I don't know how many minutes it was, 80 odd, and anyway, it was late in the game. I think that was their best chance, and Rovers didn't do much either. Just panned out, but look, worthy champions, and it was great. It was brilliant to see Josh, you know, going up, and I think that was honestly what a touch that was, and you know, I think it's excellent to see, and you know, I don't think there was a dry eye in Tallaght Stadium at the match, and you know, it was a fitting tribute. Well, not tribute, but it was a fitting thing to do, you know, and you know, Stephen and stuff like that. How proud of a moment that must be for him, and you know, I think it was great, and you know, I think Shamrock Rovers deserve all the accolades for that alone. I think it just that, you know, they get a lot of stick, Shamrock Rovers, and you know, everyone's kind of out to get them and stuff like that, and you know, they feel that, and people probably don't give them the credit they deserve. But you know, the worthy champions, and such a great little tribute for them, and that'll give them the boost now to go and beat this. And look, it's great, and I'm delighted for Stephen, and I'm delighted they got to share that moment, because moments like that don't come around very often. People will say probably next year, but you know, that moments don't come around very often where you're winning league titles and celebrating with the family like that. So look, it was great. I think they deserved it. The players, you could see they had joy in their faces, and you know, look, best of luck to them. They were the worthy champions, and look, that's it really, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, obviously, I'm not delighted Shamrock Rovers won the league for the third time in a row, but I am delighted that Josh got to share that moment with his dad, part of the League of Ireland family, which we all are, especially in this country with the way not exactly everyone follows their own league, everyone watches England. So, look, it was great for him and Stephen and the family that they won the league and that he got to celebrate that title with them. And I'm sure that's a memory that himself and his family and the Rovers players and everyone at that match will always have. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, and it's what we love to see in this league and what you like to see in general. Look, it's great for him, and look, I wish Stephen and his son all the best, and hopefully he beats this and goes on to have a long and healthy life, and a full healthy life, hopefully. JP, I suppose looking back in the game then, like Keena said, it was tight. From a Derry perspective, how did you feel the game went for Derry?
Disappointing. Disappointing. I don't think they laid a glove on Shamrock Rovers. They just look like they're in cup final mode, to be honest with you. Since they beat Treaty, I don't think they've had a good performance. Shelbourne was lackluster. Sligo, they played like a team that knew that I wouldn't say give up, but didn't really believe that even a result would would impact on the outcome of the league title. And last night it just looked like it was a team that was ready for the cup final. But they still have a job to do to get second spot, and that's the disappointing thing, is that um, that second spot's not guaranteed yet, because if they lose by a couple of goals next week against Dundalk, the Dundalk will put them the third spot. So they need to keep that, try and get a bit of momentum going. They need to go in the Dundalk game, put on a performance, get that point, secure second spot, give the fans a bit of belief going into the cup final. Not that we don't have belief, but you don't want to be going into the cup final off the back of three very lackluster performances, which they've had two already. Three maybe if you talk about the Shelbourne game. But last night I think it was just for Rovers. They just wanted, the game got in the way of the title party really, and that's the disappointing thing, is that Derry went down there and they they let the game pass them by. I think there was a few players that just weren't at it, and when you go to Tala, well, the league's over and done with, they get a result, you have to be at it from day one. And like Patrick McElhinney was, in my point of view, was the best player on the pitch, especially for us. He never stopped running the whole game. Mark Connolly as well at the back cleared everything at the near post. Didn't give Rory Gaffney a sniff, and the one time that Gaffney did get away from him, he peeled off the back post, and I wouldn't really say he got away from Connolly. He just found himself in a position where the ball came to him, and it was Shane McElhinney got the first block, and he was really unlucky that the ball fell to him and fell back to Gaffney, and he had it happen. So for us, look, it's been a good season for us. As I say, we still haven't cemented second yet. But if anybody had said that you would finish second, reach the cup final at the start of the season, we would have taken that all day long. And for us now, it's just about trying to have a bit of put in a good performance against Dundalk, go into the cup final with a bit of momentum, and turn what was a good season into a great season if we can win the cup.
Yeah, definitely, JP. I suppose before we came on air as well, JP was saying that if Dundalk put a good few goals past us next week, that you're not going to steal second. So you have still so much to play for this season. It's really not over, and the last game for you is going to be probably one of the game of the seasons for you, if not final, but game of the season in the league anyway. It could be a tremendous occasion for all Derry supporters should you steal second. That's excellent from where you came from a few years ago to where you're at now. So
we've lost the same amount of games as Shamrock Rovers. We're still 10 points behind them, basically because we've probably drew twice as many games as they have, and that's the challenge for Derry next season, is they cut them draws in half and see where we go. But look, that was the first league game that we've lost since May, which is absolute first domestic game, even 20 games of unbeaten domestically, 16 in the league, which is a remarkable thing. And as I say, it's just about trying to half them draws next year and see if we can really give Shamrock Rovers a real push next year.
Yeah, I suppose Keena heading up to Donegal then, but heading back down towards the foot of the table, we've got Harps 1, UCD 3. Unfortunately, we have our first team of the year relegated. Look, it's never nice to see a team relegated, Keena. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what club it is. It's not nice to see. But it happens. It's the nature of the game. Someone has to go down, and unfortunately this year, Ollie Horgan couldn't pull off a masterclass, a great Ollie escape. The students stay up, and they bet Harps really well. They scored 3 goals away from home. Harps have gone down, and I for one, really thought Harps would stay up this season, because I thought they were obviously they lost a good few players who played well over the last few seasons, but the likes of Barry McNamee, Ryan Connolly, Milhalovic, they had a lot of good players in that team, a lot of experienced players. Even Boyle, Donnellan at the backs. I thought Harps would have stayed up, or even had a fighting chance of staying up and got that playoff spot, and they're gone down, unfortunately. What do you make of this game overall? I actually got to see the last few minutes of the game, because that was the last kick-off and Bows had just finished, so I watched the last 15 of it. But what did you make of this game?
Yeah, we look, it'd be fairly disappointing for Harps. That was a cup final, whoever won that type of thing. So, to go ahead in it as well, I think to be more disappointed. But Ollie said it, they haven't been good enough all season. It's not just what they've done in this game. It's over the course of the season, they haven't been good enough. They've dropped points. Some really late goals that they've conceded instead of scored. Usually Finn Harps go in and score these late goals. They didn't. And look, I do sympathise with clubs like that go down because, let's be real, like it's the difference between, coaches or budgets or something from going from a part-time wage to basic expenses, and that's the way it is. And it's horrible to see because in this day and age, you don't make a fortune coaching in Ireland, especially in the top league. So I look at that and I look at the players and stuff, and I do feel for them that way. But on the other side of it, they haven't been good enough, and they finished bottom the game. They kind of went ahead, and you felt like Harps can do this, but nearly straight away they conceded, and that was it. It was a cracker of a finish now. But it is disappointing. I'd say Cork would be delighted. They don't have to go to Ballybuffet. But it's a decent journey. I have to say now, I'm disappointed to see it. Ollie, the great escape. Look, he can't do it every year. He's not. You know what I mean? He is human. The club is human. If you're threatening relegation and fighting relegation every year, some years you're just bound to go down, and that's the way it is. And I think I look at the positives. Look, it's a shame that Finn Harps have gone down, but you look who's coming up, and you're hoping to think Cork. And I know they came out and said something about their budget next season and stuff like that. But you'd like to think that they'll give a fair crack at the whip, and they'll be competitive. So I think on the positive side for the league as well. Look, it's like I said, it's a shame that they're gone, but out go Harps, in come Cork, and let's see what happens in the playoffs then. But it's a shame. And as funny as it sounds, I still don't think Finn Harps will be actually favourites for the first division title, as mad as it sounds, next season. So they never are, and they always end up coming up as well. So I don't know how they do it, but they always end up coming up. I'm sure they'll be back. Good people involved in the club, and look, let's see what happens. But it's a shame. But look, congratulations to UCD. Nothing done yet though. They have to go and win the playoffs now. That's not going to be easy. Whether it be Galway or whether it be Waterford, it's going to be a tough game. But it's one that they look forward to because I think this was like a bonus. I think for UCD that they probably didn't have targets in the league, and now they're in with a fighting chance of winning like last year, winning a one-off game again to go up into the Premier Division last year, and they won it, and here they are, and now they have a chance to stay in there. So I think I don't think there's much pressure on them, and I think there'll be a good game of football, whoever the final is. But yeah,
the club needs a root and branch approach, and I think that includes Ollie going. From what I'm told, Ollie wanted to go last season, but the club persuaded him to do one more year, and I think by doing that one more year and how it's panned out and how it's ended up, his legacy is now tainted. That it's going to be remembered for this one season and not the other 7 or 8 seasons, great seasons that they had. I know that he brought them up and then kept them up, and then they went down, but they only went down because there was three teams had to go down that year, and then he brought them straight back up again, and he's kept them up for 4 consecutive years. And in my lifetime, that's unheard of for Finn Harps. And they got 44 points last year, and they never looked in any danger of even getting into the playoffs. Last year, that they always felt that they were going to maybe stay safe, and they've only got 20 this year, so they haven't even reached half their total. they could do that next year or next week with a win over Drogheda, but it's really disappointing for them, disappointing for Ali Horgan, because he's put a lot of work over the last 9-10 years into that team, that club, and unfortunately for him, his legacy is going to be remembered by most people for what happened this year. And we have to think, like, he's lost his squad last year was handpicked by other clubs. His left back went out to Italy to play in Serie B, or Serie C, I think it was. Foley went down to Drogheda to play up there. He's lost all our key players. He lost Andy Webster at the start of the season through a knee injury, and it just kept being a domino effect. And I think Horgan will go. It's just disappointing that he couldn't go on his own terms last year. But look, I said last year when UCD won the playoff against Waterford that Finn Harps would have been happy with that, because in my opinion that meant that Harps were fighting out with Drogheda to avoid the playoff, and in the end it materialised that they were actually fighting UCD to avoid the automatic drop, and they haven't done that, and UCD have done it with a game to spare, and fair play to them. And I think, in my opinion, manager of the season should always go to the league title winning manager, especially this year. Stephen Bradley, with what he's done with Rovers getting into group stages on the back of his family, of what his family's had to go through personally as well. But for me, the outside of Stephen Bradley, the manager of the season is Andy Myler, because he's come up, he's got promoted from being in fifth position, I think, last year, and he's got his team into the playoff final again this year, and that's an absolute
it's
huge achievement, considering the players that he lost mid-season. He lost Colin Whelan to a knee injury. Liam Kerrigan went to Italy, and so the tremendous achievement for them. But going back to the game, like, Finn Harps got the goal, got themselves in front. All of a sudden, they're the team that's in the driving seat. They're the team that's now sitting in the playoff place. And then within 30 seconds of the kickoff, UCD equalised. Fantastic strike, can't take nothing away from it. But Harps need to defend it better. And then it just seemed that all energy was maybe sucked out of them after that. And then you see against Shelbourne a few weeks ago as well, they take the lead, and within 6 minutes, Shelbourne are back on level terms. And it's just points, games like that where they've thrown away silly leads, and it's come back to bite them in the end up. And but they do say at the start of the season, if you're going to achieve your goals, you have to beat the teams around you and then maybe pick up points elsewhere. And UCD this season have picked up 10 points against Finn Harps. Three wins and 1 draw, and 2 of those wins came in Ballybofey, and that is the difference. And that is the reason why UCD have made the playoffs. And look, good luck to them now against either Waterford or Galway. I'm sure they'll be really looking forward to that. They do have Shamrock Rovers to play next week before that, but it'll be just about getting that game done and then getting the real business out of the way when they play that playoff the following week. But for Finn Harps, I think it's a rebuilding process now for them, and I think a new management setup is probably the right way for them to go.
I suppose, Keena, moving on to your club, Sligo 1, Pats 0. I suppose Keena off Sligo actually has 20 goals in all competitions this season, which is an incredible statistic for a striker. There's not too many 20 goals a season strikers in many leagues at all, and what a player he is. And I'm sure the likes of Derry, Rovers, Bows will be sniffing around at him next season.
Yeah, look, 20 goals is nothing to be sniffed at. Brilliant, especially, like, I think you tend to get that with teams, where you look at Derry, you look at Rovers, you look at Pats. We don't have that 20 goal a season player. Its goals come from all around the side. Where I think, Sligo have, I'm not saying they're a one-man team, but he's the man that gets them the goals. They rely on him to score. Similar to Georgie Kelly at Bows last year, where he, it's like he's the man, where you're looking at Shells, for example, Shells, Pats, Bows, Rovers, they kind of don't really have that man, that go-to striker that scores your goals. I think the goals come from all around. Look, it was a poor game of football, to be honest with you. It wasn't a great game. And look, we have to speak about officials, not in this game alone, but I think in general, did we, like, I don't know, did we see that penalty? Or
Yeah.
And if you actually look at it, you look at Keena getting up to have a go at the ref because he thought it was a free out.
No, it was terrible now, to be honest. And look, that's been the story of this season. Before that, we're seeing a lot of poor officiating in this league, and it's not something to be proud of at all. Like, you know, looking at this, every game there's something. There's been a few series.
I don't like especially talking about the officials, especially after losing. But
yeah,
did any of you see the Pats and Rovers game last week as well?
All the decisions are.
The thing is, I will say is, referees have a terrible job in football. They're the hardest job in football. They're underappreciated. They're undervalued. They're always going to get stuff wrong. But we can sit here and criticize them all day long. But until somebody else referees a game, tell me how hard it is. An under 15s game is stressful, let alone League of Ireland game. By no means are on the official sides, because we've had our fair share of balls where decisions go wrong. But people hammer officials all the time, but without them, they wouldn't be the game. But look, that's not excusing decisions that they are making. Something needs to be done about it, but I just don't know what.
Well, some of the stuff that we're looking at is shocking. Like that free kick for Dundalk against Bows. I'm sorry, but come on.
No, that was bad. That was bad.
But like that leads to a goal, which in the end could catch Derry into second. Stops Pats getting into Europe. You know what I mean? These things,
yeah, absolutely. But
like that game now, I think Pats on Sligo could have been still there now and it'd be still 0-0.
I think when you look at the way Keena struck the penalty too, it was kind of striking. He wasn't actually. I don't think he was trying to score. I think he was just hoping that the keeper gets on under it, hit the bar or something. I don't
know about that now, JP.
It was a poor decision, but it's not only that; it's throughout the game. You know, and like you're seeing. Like I've only really seen the last two Pats games against Rovers as well, and like you're looking at the decisions. You know what I mean? Yeah, it is laughable, and I know an awful lot of the referees personally. I would speak to them nearly on a weekly basis, like, and you build up a reputation with them. You get to speak to them in a relationship, but some of the decisions this year alone have been atrocious. And now look up. Oh, there's my fast. That's someone telling me to shut up now. But now, look, some of the officiating it has been really poor. You know, I think it's every week we're coming away from a game and we're giving out about some decision that happened. If it's not a Pats game, it's something else. Like, the decision on the Bows game is laughable. Like, it really is. And I know it leads to a goal, which in turn, you know what I mean, changes the game. But it's not right. And I think it's something that needs to be looked at next year. I think we are probably scraping the barrel a little bit here. It was an awful game, to be honest. I thought Pats had a great chance 2 minutes in. Owen Doyle kind of slipped, and it was one of them. He should have went in, and then Forrester broke and had a great chance. Just put a wide. They're probably the only two chances in the game. For Pats, Sligo didn't really. Pats never really looked like conceding. Yeah, it was a poor game overall. The penalty obviously changed the result. But not only that, we don't think if that was Rovers or Derry, they wouldn't have lost that game. And I think that's the difference at the minute. Like Rovers or Derry were arguably played worse than Pats did up in Sligo. And he still came away from with a point, you know. And I think that's the difference. If you don't play great, you don't lose the game. And I think Derry have done that. You just look at the amount of draws Derry have, and they've not lost. I know it's probably come back to bite them a little bit, but they've not lost games. And Pats have kind of lost games that, you know, we would have liked to hold on to a few more points. But it was an awful game of football. I thought from both sides. There was nothing really, but there's nothing between the two sides all year. Anytime we played them, we came out on top. They came out on top in some games, and it wasn't a game for the neutrals. Let's just say, but yeah, I just think officiating it's like the last couple of weeks, especially, like it's been important. And look, I'm not just saying it because Pats haven't got the results that we've wanted. I'm not just putting this on, so like I don't want people thinking that. Because look, personally, we haven't been good enough, and that's the reality. But go back, watch the Shamrock Rovers match, and just try and referee yourselves on the telly because it'll be on the RTE player. And JP, you have to agree with that. Like that was, like, I couldn't believe it. Like I genuinely couldn't. It was poor. Like look, the goals. I say going back to the Rovers game, people will say I talk about the goals you conceded. The push was light. I probably wouldn't have given it if I was a referee on Forrester, and that would have been a goal. But I'm talking about the yellow cards in the first game, in the first half, and stuff like that. And then you look at the penalty decision the other day, and it's just it's really poor decisions. And I think it's. I'm not going to say it hasn't cost us because we haven't been good enough to win it, but it's disappointing that's the officiating at the top league in Ireland. And our league has come on so much, and I think there's something needs to be. I think everyone will probably agree something needs to be looked at, hopefully, to upgrade the officiating a little bit.
Yeah, I fully agree with all your comments. I suppose JP, probably putting all that aside, and because it's not really too much to add to that. Like I'm sure you agree with everything Keena said. Like he has it in a nutshell there. That's exactly how the game was. The referees, that's the way it was. And obviously Sligo came away with 3 points, a home win. Pratt's lost away from home, a clean sheet for Sligo. Boom, that's great for them. Keena went under the goal obviously again. Is Keena someone you yourself might see leaving Sligo or going abroad? Sligo have lost Kenny last season or season before that. They keep losing, they keep getting great strikers, and they're scoring 20 goal season and moving on. Is Keena someone you think might leave the league?
Potentially, but he's only back in the league after spending how many years in Scotland, like playing around the leagues there, where I think he had about 10 different clubs, and he's come back to Sligo, and he's.
Oh, sorry. Maybe like what I probably should be saying is, can you see him leaving to maybe a team that's in Europe? Because I think he'd be someone that would slot in well at yourselves at Derry or even Pats or any of them clubs. I think he would really fit in on them teams.
Yeah. He could do, but I think Sligo are the hold the trump card fee, and it's going to have to come down to what Sligo want or what they think they can get if a club from England or Scotland was to come looking for him. And like as we touched on already, a 20 goal striker is hard to come by in the League of Ireland. So I think it's been Pat Tobin, David McMullen, Mark Farren, Rory Patterson. They in the past they've maybe not hit the 20 goal, but they've got close to like 18, 19 in terms of a league campaign. And if Derry are looking to maybe turn these 12 draws into maybe wins, it's somebody like him that they potentially maybe need. Because he's got everything, and he's locker. He can run in behind. He can hold it up. He can come. Literally anything you need. And it's all down to how badly do they want them. Do they see someone elsewhere in another country that they could maybe get in on a bit cheaper? And you've always got to think of it. Do we pay big money for a striker that has done it for one season and potentially not do it again? And that's the thing that these clubs will be thinking about. But then when you look at Sligo and you've seen that he's got 17 goals, you just kind of wonder where exactly would they've been this season without him. 49 points, 5th place, guaranteed, and there's still 9 points adrift at the top 4. So you're just thinking, where would they have been? Could they've had if they taken Wexford a wee bit more seriously in the cup, could they've given the cup a bit more of a rattle as well? So I know the Wexford game came off the back of a really good win in Europe. So But look, we'll see what comes of the rumours, because I'm sure there'll be many of them over the coming weeks and months of where Aidan Keena is going to go.
Bohs then Keena were 2-1 loss up at Dundalk. Obviously, it was a great night for Dundalk in front of their home fans. They sealed European football this season, and that's what they set out to do this season, and they reached their target. And look, they got it. Fair play to Dundalk. They bet as well. I think Bohs did a lot better in the second half. We were non-existent in the first half. We might as well not showing up, but second half was. I've seen a lot of people bicker about this online. People don't agree. People do agree. 50-50, but I think Bohs tried very hard in the second half, but it's obviously, look, it's a 90-minute game, not a 45-minute game. Dundalk deserved the win. They got the win and to seal European football. What was your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, it was a Dundalk party by the end of it. I know Bohs scored a couple of minutes to go, put a bit of pressure on, but Bohs haven't been good enough all year again. They'd be really disappointed from going so close to winning a trophy in the cup. You know what I mean? You'd like to think you'd get a little bit closer to the top three, and you'd be pushing for Europe, which I did say it, Daz, and you will agree with me. I did think Bohs would struggle this year.
Yeah.
But I just didn't think they'd struggle as much as they have. The season just can't come quick enough now. The end of it, just get it done. One more game, and look, they'd be fit with the season. But let's not forget, let's look at how much Bohs have built, and you've built a proper football club there now, and so it's not like you have had a bad season and you've nothing to show for it. I think Bohs, people will say they've nothing to show for it, but what they built over the course of these good seasons has been a proper football club and a fan base, which is something probably money can't buy a little bit.
Yeah.
So it would be nice now next year to see how they get on with Decky, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I don't know in the game. I was saying I actually watched it. I don't know why, but yeah, I did. It wasn't a great game again. Again, the refereeing decision for the free kick. Sorry, but that's like JP. That's shocking. You'll probably agree with that. Like I'd say, like the videos going around of it. Oh, it is laughable, really. You know what I mean? That like surely the referee is closer to him. You hear the click. You hear the tackle. And like I don't know, Daz, were you there yourself?
I wasn't there, but I watched it, and look, I agree with what you're saying. It was a poor decision. We all could. I know watching it on camera is different than watching it in person. The referee's got to make the right decision there, especially
the referee is right beside it.
Like he's got to make the right decision there. I don't know what's going through his head that game. And look, we've discussed it earlier, but we've all seen a fair share of poor decisions. But that particularly was a pretty poor decision, and it would make you really question, like, what did the referee assessors say to the referee at the end of them games? Like, how is he pulling them up on it? Like, well, how did you not get that decision correct? Like, it's just stuff like that can determine games. And Dundalk sealed European football that night by winning that game. So, like, they're big decisions.
They are the massive decisions, and I don't look. People will say all evens out over the course of the season. Pats have got some decisions that were very harsh on other teams and stuff like that. I get that and I understand that, but we need to see a more level of consistency, I think, throughout the fouls. And some games you go to them, you see the tackles flying in. There's not a card given. The next time there's 8 yellow cards in the game. It's not even half time yet. So I think there has to be that level of consistency, and I think that's something that we're crying out for. But getting back to the game, Dundalk obviously sailed European football, finished third. Can catch Derry in second with a game next week. I doubt it'll happen though. I just think they're happy to be where they are. They're in third, and I think going by the celebrations, they were delighted with that. And finishing third place from where Dundalk were is an achievement. it is something that they can build on. I am, I'm not going to say I'm looking forward to it, but it'd be interesting to see who Stevie has lined up to bring in, player wise and stuff like that, and see, because the squad was very light. And to be honest with you, I'm shocked that they finished third with the squad and the injuries that they've had. They've done really well in games, and especially Pats beating them 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at home. They could have easily imploded then, and they didn't. They got back on the horse and they went and challenged, and they've got that spot deservedly so. And the third European football next year, Phil Bob coming their way again, and look, it'd be interesting to see what type of squad he goes with, because I think this is probably Stevie would have got it this year at Pats, but I think he would have got it, but this is his first year now that he has a Phil Bob behind him.
Yeah, that's going to make all the difference, I think, as well. Because
like I said, he would have got that this year. But this is the first time that we're going to see now on the decisions and the players that he brings in. He has to get it right. There's a pressure on the top four to get their recruitment right in the off season. There's massive pressure on Derry, I think, next season coming up to get the recruitment right. Massive pressure. Like you look at Derry now, and they have a lot of players on 3-year deals or 2-year deals now, which is good. But I think Derry need to add a few now, but they need to add in the right areas. I think Shamrock Rovers need to add in the right areas. And then look, everybody's going to be trying to pick from the same pool of players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and where these players go. But look, they've got the European football. They finished third. A nice season for them. A much improved season. They hit a serious blip there towards the quarter-final stage of the season there, when the cup and stuff like that. And Stevie probably had a lot of criticism gone his way, but they've got up now. They've stood up in main counters, and they've got themselves towards. So credit to them, but I just think Bowles now just need to get the season over and done with, and just want the next year.
Yeah, Keena, fully agree with all that. I suppose JP, look, like Keena said, great season for Dundalk. European football potentially could finish second. It's been a great season for them, and I'm sure they're happy to get them back to where they belong as well, where the level was at a few years ago. The bar that they put, I'm sure they're reaching back. That's where they wanted to be, and it's a great season for them. But I suppose looking at Bowles, Declan Devine has come in. He's had a few losses. Look, he's going to be wanting to get rid of a few of them players. He's already come out and said he's been talking to between 12 and 14 players. So could we be seeing a huge big reshuffle again at Bowles next season?
Potentially, because he did it Derry, and potentially the contract situation at Bowes is going to be similar to his transfer. His budget was at Derry, in terms of he can only offer 40-week contracts, and players don't want to sign multiple years on 40-week contracts. They potentially maybe want to sign one, see how they get on, and then maybe get a move to a club that are offering better contract situation. So to say that he's talked to 12 to 14 players wouldn't put it past me. You could potentially maybe think by now that could potentially have doubled. But at the same time, he has to look and see what he's got at Bowes. Who can he move on? I think that's 3 games now he's had, isn't it? So he'll be well aware of now of who's going to be there next year, who he wants to keep, and no doubt that he'll be wanting to bring his own squad in, put his own squad together, and see where it takes him. We do know he's a good manager for stopping a rot, because he's done it a couple of times at Derry. He's managed 4 years he's had in the 4 full seasons in the League of Ireland, and he's qualified for Europe on 3 of them. So he's no dozer, Declan. Definitely not when it comes to management. And I think the year he missed out was the COVID year, where the season was cut short, and they put a squad together, and then half the squad had departed by the time we got back from COVID. And he had to try and put another squad together, and just about stayed away from the relegation playoffs. So when you think back to Bows, they missed out in European football last year in the last game of the season. Then they lost the cup final on penalties. They had, I think, a couple cleared off the line late in extra time, and you're just thinking
But
that
maybe that's not. We're not going to go back to that cup final. I'll go back to next
Thank you,
season.
JP. Thank you.
No.
you're just thinking if they maintained fourth spot or won the cup, would it have been, where would they have been this season? Would they have had a better squad? Would they have been able to put a better squad together? Potentially, yes. But look, Bows for 3 or 4 years probably overachieved. And let's be honest, with the squad they did, they probably did, and they are where they probably should be now, in sixth spot. But no doubt that Declan, he'll not settle for that. He'll want to be getting into top four, and no doubt about that. That Declan will work harder than any manager in the league. We've talked about how hard Ollie Horgan worked at Harps. They get players in, and Declan will do the same, and he'll not rest until he does.
Yeah, and I suppose yeah, it's out in the public that Declan Vine probably wasn't Bo's number one candidate. If you're going to believe reports, so Declan Vine came in, if that's true, obviously with that knowledge, and I've been really liking what I've been reading and hearing from him, like his work ethic. He really wants to be at Bows. He really wants to get Bows back to Europe, and he seems to have a clear plan. And I'm delighted that we got Declan Vine. I think he's a great manager, and I really hope the fans give him time to bed in at Bows. We need to give him at least 6 months in charge of the club. Let him get the players out that he doesn't want to bring the players in that he wants there. And probably just touching back on what Keena was said too, the club that we've met together now. I hope these fans, these new fans that we have, stay with the team. Obviously, Dave came in when we haven't been as successful as we have been the last 2 seasons, and they've probably been used to looking at Bows in the Viva Stadium, and he used to looking at Ross Tierney, he used to looking at Georgie Kelly and all, and it's a lot different now with them players and the club where it is.
I'd be questioning, the board when, it's easy to question the board when things aren't going right, but with the way the season is petered out for Bows, to hear that they approached Declan Devine on the Tuesday, he said it in his interview that they approached him on a Tuesday, and by the Friday he was sitting in the stand against Pats. For me that's worrying a little bit. I just think, with the season the way it was petered now, surely, they're not in a seriously bad position where they need to get a manager straight in that they're fighting for Europe or something like that. So, that's the part that kind of struck me, that, look, he was probably 17th or 18th on the list. I'm not sure how far down he was. But let's be honest, I think everybody that was qualified to be a coach was nearly considered before Declan Devine at this stage. And that's a bit that worries me. How long are they going to give him? And I think he has to prove a point to the board. He's saying all the right things. I am listening to him. I listened to an interview he done with some Bows fan, 25-minute one, sitting in the Daily Mount Wrestling Race, and that was really, really good. He said all the things a fan wants to hear, but you can say it. He needs to go and prove it, but I think he needs to prove it to the board. And I think that's a big one. Before he even proves it to the fans, I think he has to prove it to the board. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. I'm looking forward to seeing, the players that he brings in. I said it to you, Daz, once you're out of that European rut, once you're out of that European group, it's very, very hard to get back in.
Yeah.
And, I think they just want to close the gap next year. And look, I just think his off season is probably the most important off season of his career, I think, for Decky. And it shouldn't be saying that when he's only in the job, but I think he's in that position now where he has to deliver nearly quick. I'd love to see him get a little bit of time and stuff like that. But
yeah,
if he will, that's the truth. I'd love to see it, but I don't know if he will.
That's the thing, and it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, I want to see him in 6 months in charge of both. I don't mean we're starting at 6 months from when he took over. I mean next season from this first league game, 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months on from them, see where we're at by then. If we're not anywhere near Europe, if we're down 7th, that's when I'd be saying, no, we get change, maybe change things up. But
you have to. You can't keep chopping and changing managers either.
I don't want
Derry done it for
go down that road.
10 years. For 10 years, Derry were doing it every couple of years, and it's hard. And
it's hard.
I think you have to give him at least a season at it. You can't just give him 6 months. He has to get at least a season at it.
I fully agree with you, but like I said, I think that's what he should get. I think he should get longer than that, but I don't think the board and the
you don't think they'll
The board wanted somebody in, I think, Ian, just because they didn't want they wanted somebody in, so they knew they had a manager, so they could then I think maybe look at the recruitment, where if they were trying to recruit a manager and then everybody else is picking the best players, then they're going to be left behind. And I think maybe that's what they're thinking, wasn't getting somebody in quick.
That's what I mean. I think it was a bit of a panic.
Yeah, they shouldn't have, because it took them so long to find somebody. I don't think they should have got rid of Keith Long when they did. They probably should have just let him have a few more weeks and then have that person lined up just to come in within maybe a week, a wee bit later than what it was.
I think if we're going to talk about that now, I think realistically what happened was Keith Long got his recruitment wrong for the first season at both, and it went dramatically wrong. And he looked at a shadow of the coach or the manager he looked at from previous seasons, because the players' personality had at the club, where the club was at, finishing second, third in European, in the cup final. As you said, he lost European spots from the last game of the season. He lost he lost penalties on a cup final. That's hard. And in the on season, he gets the recruitment wrong. He's sacked. So I just think that was wrong. But that's just,
you look at it and think you're 6th in the league at the time when he was sacked. You're out of the cup. You're not going to get Europe. You're not going to get relegated. People do at the end of the season, and then he leave on a good note, a goodish note, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not do any better, you know what I mean? And like he said, then he can have that. He can have that little bit of a time to find the manager.
The final game then of these list of fixtures is Shelbourne 6, Drogheda United 0. This was Shelbourne's biggest win in the league since 2006, so that's quite a long time. 6 goals, Keena. It's been a great season for Damien Duff. I think he should be very happy with where he's had Shelbourne this season. There's so much to build on for next season.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how great of a season it is for Shelbourne, to be honest. I think he's pulling the wool over our eyes a little bit. No, I do think they should. You look at the squad that they have: Moylan, Matty Smith, Sean Boyd, who was actually really coming on leaps and bounds this year.
Coyle.
Coyle. You look at the midfield that they have. You look at the defence that they have and the keeper. I think they're pulling the wool over people's eyes a little bit. Damien Duff here. If you
call him bluffer out?
At the start of the year, it was all about the sleeping giant, bringing them back. Now in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's all about achieving our objective of staying up.
Yeah.
So, I just think a little bit of perspective there. Like, anyone can win the cup. And I just you look at it, you get a couple of runs at it. Like Pats last year, who in fairness had a great season and went on to win the cup. That's not always the case with the cup winners, though. And I just think, the league position should be higher. They should be striving to finish higher. I think I'd be very disappointed if I was a Shells fan and for example, Bowes finished ahead of me, or even Sligo at this stage a little bit. I'd be disappointed, because I just think they're pulling the wool over their eyes a little bit. But look, they're in a cup final. Who am I to talk? People will probably disagree. But I just think Shells should be higher in the league. A great win. They seem to be flying now, coming into the cup final. They'll be wanting to put a statement down next week in Inchi Cork, for the cup final the following week. And it is an exciting time to be a Shells fan. I'm not dismissing what they've done or anything this year. Don't get me wrong. I just think like 7th in the league is nothing to celebrate. But look, obviously, if they win the cup, they'll go and have a great season, and everyone will be delighted. And I get that, and I understand that. But I just hope you can see where I'm coming from there.
JP, I suppose, in my opinion, I could disagree with Keena. I think he's been quite harsh on Shelbourne. Like, if you go back to Shelbourne last season when they come up and said to them, you're going to stay up, you're going to finish 7th and have a cup final, would you deem that a successful season? In my opinion, I'd say about 7 or 8 out of every 10 fans would probably say, yeah, geez, that's a great season. I'd definitely take that and build on it for next season. Is that a success? Is that a good season for Shelbourne, or do you think they should have done better as well? Because think of it as well, they finished 7, right? So UCD and Harps are obviously 2 teams that finished below them, and then Drogheda. I think Shelbourne and Bows, that's where they're at anyway. If you look at their squad, if you look at where they're at the minute, they've only came up. So really, I think that's where they're at. I think it's a great season for them, really.
I can see where both these are coming from, but I think when you look throughout the Shelbourne squad, it's better than the Bows squad, and it's better than the Sligo squad, in my opinion.
And Drogheda.
Drogheda as well. 7th is probably where we had Shelbourne finishing, which at the start of the season. But whenever you look at the squad, they probably have underachieved a wee bit. That was their first one since July when they beat UCD. So it tells you all that whenever you put that into perspective, they probably underachieved a wee bit. If they go and win the cup, it becomes a great season for them. Because nobody expected them to even get a cup run. As that Keane said, anybody can win the cup. It's wide open. All you need is a wee bit of luck along the way, somewhere along the line. And fair play to them. I think next year now is, no matter what way the cup final goes, next year is for Shelbourne trying to realise the potential. Can they take the shackles off a wee bit and go and finish higher up the league? Because I think they can. I think that they can definitely push the top 4 next year. Maybe finish 5th with the right recruitment. Because I think Bows are gonna. I think Bows are going to maybe fall back a wee bit next year because it'll be Declan's first year and it's about what sort of recruitment he gets. I think Shelbourne are going to be a year ahead of them if they can keep that squad together that they have. I know Matty Smith, he's only on loan. Can they do a deal to get him in permanently? Who knows? That like the Sean Boyd, he was a player that I was trying to think of on earlier whenever I was talking about Harps losing players. Him and Mark Coyle have been. For me, Coyle has been excellent in midfield for them this year. Then you've got Jack Moylan. Like, I do think that I can see Keane's point was about Shelbourne being a sleeping giant. Maybe was Duff taken out of context and thinking that maybe the people take him in the point that he was saying that right now that they're going to become that they're a sleeping giant and all of a sudden they're not going to be a sleeping giant. It all boils down to what the Damon Duff's objective is and over how many seasons. No doubt that his first objective probably would have been to finish where they finished, get a cup run. Next season the objective is can they push higher, can they move on? And look, if they go and win the cup, that budget's going to increase big time. And I say then they start tapping into a different pool of players then whenever it comes to signings.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
And like I think I talked earlier as well. Sorry for cutting across you about Derry wanting to go on the cup final on a bit of momentum with their last home game. Shelbourne have done that by putting on a show for their fans at Tolka Park by winning 6-0. And I'm not saying Derry need to go and beat Dundalk 6-0 next week. Just need to go and put on a really positive performance, and then we look to Viva the following week.
I suppose the reason people ask this is if you're a Shelbourne fan, let us know in the comments below if you've, as I said to you, put a question to you from last season. You're going to stay up 7th and the cup final. Is that a good season? Because it's very easy to sit here now looking back on their teams going.
I think 7th and a cup final is great.
But 7th without a cup final is.
But 7th if someone was to say forget the cup and say 7th, and you went on that run where you haven't won in so many games, I don't know. I just think if that was someone else in charge, they might be under pressure without the cup, and that's what I'm thinking.
Agree there.
Like, if
Well, I
that,
don't know. Like, you're looking at Harps UCD, which probably were a given that they'd finish at the bottom, with no disrespect to them. You're probably then looking at Drogheda, which is, 7th, 8th, 7th. No disrespect to them. But then you're looking at Shelbourne, Bowls, Sligo, which is where they all finished. So I think that's where they're probably going to finish anyway.
yeah, but
Yeah, but they've gone from July to October without a win. That's what we're trying to say.
But they could have also went
The-
from July to October, win, and still finish 7th.
But the cup has peppered over the cracks, I think, from that run. As Keane's 100% right.
Morris.
Yeah, exactly. Keane's right. If had been Sunday Howard and Damien Duff in charge there at Shelbourne, they'd have been under an awful lot of pressure.
If
Probably was under pressure. He probably
Ian
still
Morris
is under
lost
pressure.
2 games.
He probably put himself under pressure, but I think externally, with the fan base and stuff like that, he'd have been under a lot more pressure. If it wasn't Damien Duff, and I think as Keane's right, if Ian Morris came up and got them where they got them and got to July, and then hadn't won in 11 games, I think he probably would have been sacked by then. But I'm not saying that Duff deserved to be sacked.
No.
100% not. He's done a good job this season. We're just talking that when you go 11 games without a win,
Yeah, I know. Look, that's obviously you're going under pressure. You should be rightly so under pressure. The gun should be to your head if you're going 11 games without a win, realistically.
Especially if you're a club like Shelbourne. I just think a little bit of perspective on a grey season, if you know what I mean. That's all.
I still stand by what I said. I think 7 was a good place finish for Shelbourne, and look, I think that's good. I suppose JP Keena, it's been great having you on. Thanks so much. Congratulations to Shamrock Rovers on winning your 3rd league title. And commiserations to Finn Harps after getting relegated, and best of luck to UCD in the playoffs. Hopefully you can stay up and fight towards that. And let us know in the comments below about how your team did and how your season's been, and any other comments on your team or what do you think. And please like and subscribe if you're new, and put that bell notifications. Thanks, lads.
Thanks.
thank you.